should be live with that. Probably won't see the results of that for another second or so. Hey, we're entirely live! Yay! Hello, hello to everybody that is watching. I am Brandon.
Oh, this was your I've got this?
Yeah, probably. I don't know if this is any different than what we normally do.
No, this is exactly what we normally do.
Damn it! Damn it! Well, who are you, mystery person? Who are you? What are you doing
Mi amo,
here?
¿cómo estás? Gracias. Estoy aquí.
Your name is how is this going?
Yeah, yeah, because that's what's constantly in my mind.
I mean, it's fair enough.
It's called a pseudonym, thank you.
But yes, hello
No,
to
I'm EJ.
everybody.
I'm your other co-host. We're here to talk about things. What things, Brandon?
Character things and also maybe the story.
And we chose a very story important and heavy game with tons of lore and great character fleshing outs.
Like Fuse.
Yeah, like, did you know that Fuse is like a single father of four adopted children?
And they're Glaz's children. He adopted
Yeah,
Glaz's children.
because Glaz is actually like secretly in the Russian Bratva, so he isn't allowed to have children because they cut off his penis. And in order to prove that he didn't have the children before he had the penis, he had to give them away. It's a really, really tragic story that's totally in this game.
And it is for that reason that you should shoot Fuse in the dick.
How is that related?
Because Glaz has wants vengeance on Fuse for taking his children, and also he's mad that he no longer has a penis.
See, I thought it was like willing, hey bro, do me a solid, but that's what happens when you make up a story on the spot because all these characters are shit.
Oh, is that controversial stance?
Dude, I don't know. I haven't heard anybody anywhere say anything about this game.
You could say the exact same thing about Anthem. Oh,
Oh, fuck.
oh, shit.
Dude, my brother didn't even know it existed when I told him about it on launch day.
Oh, that's gorgeous. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about characters and stories and how they work. Because we're like, we talk about this stuff a lot, especially when it's about stuff that we like. And sometimes when it's stuff we don't like, but that's less often.
I don't know, I kind of disagree. Because I feel like there's a lot of overlap in the stuff that we don't like for the stuff that we want to like. So then we put in the extra effort of like doing those tweaks, either the characters, the story, the design, or what have you, to shift them into a direction where they could have been better. So I feel like we kind of talk about them equally.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Um, but yeah, like whenever like something new comes out or whenever we like revisit an old thing, we have like strong opinions, we'll talk about it. But more than that, we're actually kind of like working through like the writing process in much different ways for much different things. Oh God, and also I'm sorry if I have like jerky movements, but I gotta get used to being like this close to the screen. This feels very weird. I'm not usually this close to the screen when I'm playing this game.
Where are you usually?
That's what oh, I'm usually further away on my TV, but apparently I just destroyed a camera that it looked exactly like one of the enemy drones. I thought I was destroying a drone, but I guess
Oh
that was not
no,
the
we
case.
we have we have Super Motocross 20 on our team, So he stole it.
Well, sorry to him. And sorry to my school. I have 105 points somehow. You just box him up. But yeah, I am
Well,
currently...
that's not good. Oh, Jesus,
Ooh.
what happened?
One of my things went off.
Yeah, I know,
I thought-
in my face.
I apologize for everything.
I'm backing you up, I think.
I'm probably gonna die. Just saying.
Probably.
There's nobody out there. Not when I checked.
Where? Where are the tangos found? I'm sorry, what were we mentioning beforehand?
I was oh, Jesus Christ.
Oh, I shot her so much, and then she shot Abraham Lincoln. That's not cool.
Yeah, no, don't shoot Abraham Lincoln. John Wilkes Booth made that mistake.
Well, seeing as how I'm dead, I might as well carry this conversation forward a little bit.
Yeah, explain what you're writing and what you're doing.
I'm not so much writing as just designing an open narrative for Dungeons and Dragons. For like the 2 people who might ever see this who don't do a Dungeons and Dragons. It's interactive storytelling with games and bullshit. So it's a lot more open. There isn't as much rigid structure to it. But yeah, I did it. That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was doing a shotgun.
So I can plan story elements out in advance, but if that's not the way that events unfold, I can either repurpose those story elements or just have to figure out a new way to work the story, depending on what transpired among the players who also act as inspiration and storytellers themselves. So it's a lot more open and fluid and requires like a lot of versatility and improvisation.
Which is that's very different from like regular storytelling, and it's probably most similar to like the character design that game designers have to go through.
I would like to think so, but then I see these 5 faces and how there's absolutely nothing about them other than the fact that I know that Hibana's Japanese and she got redrawn because her face looked like a painting, so now they gave her big lips. That's the only thing I know about that character.
Yeah, honestly, with this game, you just kind of like impart whatever the fuck you want onto the characters because they have none.
Like they have bios, but that's shit, you know. That's like half a Wikipedia article that could have been written by anybody.
Yeah, at least with games like Overwatch, you know, you get to, Tracer has a personality, Widowmaker has a personality.
Okay, I can agree with that.
Like they have personality. You're not just because with this game they're just classes that are given people. Overwatch feels like people that are given classes, if that makes sense. It's not much, but there is a difference there. Because this game could you could repurpose it so that way you're playing as the same bland-looking person, but still retain the different guns, and the game wouldn't change at all. Other than that, you would never know who you're shooting at. But you couldn't do that to Overwatch because you'd lose out on the personality. So it is a bit different like that. But where all this came from was for more choice-driven games where the player actually does have agency over the story and how the characters change. That's probably the most similar to D&D, where they have to plan out a bunch of different character shifts that the story could take depending on the choices. Oh my god, that's a spike.
Which, of course, would be most prevalent in RPG games, which is exactly what D&D is, except physical instead of video.
Yeah. Whereas mine is a lot more traditional, because I have a couple of characters that I very much enjoy, and I'm trying to
Yes.
write out a story for them to possibly use in a comic. So it's a very more traditional structure where there's one storyline and characters have a specific planned arc, and I want it to be as satisfying as humanly possible. So, like, one's very rigid and oh no! The other's like that, where my body's flopping around and doing whatever. Jesus, that looks so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that wasn't great. Yeah, whereas you
Bard
can be
storage.
like, all right, this is what this character's for, this is what they're going to be, and this is how they get there. Mine's kind of more like, this is what I want this character to be for, this is what I hope they're going to be, and this is where they might possibly maybe end up. Probably not.
Yeah. I I didn't like there's a channel I watch called Rasputin, and he's got a very
That sounds
interesting channel.
familiar.
Yeah, I
Have we
mentioned
talked
him
about
like
it
once or
before?
twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned him once or twice. He's a very level-headed dude who talks about story and stuff like that, and he is also a D&D player. So, he made a video kind of about that same topic. I thought I chose Caviera. Oops. Why am I not? People in the stream. Did I choose Caviera? I wish this had an editor so it could cut back because I really think I chose Caviera.
Nah, bro, you chose Blitz.
Eh. Oops.
I mean, it's possible that Javier stole Javier from you before, or like right beforehand, and just autofilled
Maybe.
you to the next like letter in the alphabet.
That makes sense.
Little robot bastard.
I am dead.
So yeah, Rasputin or Bootin.
Yeah, he made a video about that exact topic about like how he would go about planning these very dramatic arcs for these characters and twists that he wanted the story to take, and trying to nudge his players in the right direction, and how it would never go that way. And just how he had to come up with things on the spot or have like things pre-planned out that the character might do in a given scenario, or just really know the character's personality, so that way they can make split decisions for those other characters and still provide satisfying arcs, even if they're not, completely planned out. And he said it was very cool to have like improv storytelling. It really forces you to know exactly who your characters are.
Exactly, and it's just really, I don't know, it's really fun to do that because it requires you to like flesh out what this person is to the world moments after you pull a name out of your ass. And it's really, I wouldn't say frustrating, but it's kind of panicky when somebody who is just supposed to do a thing ends up being like integral to the next 6 hours of storytelling there. But at the same time, it's super satisfying to see that literally nothing line of dialogue turn into something impactful to the overall story in some way.
Absolutely.
And
That's why,
even if like you did want something specific out of that character, even if you can't do it in that character, if you still have that idea, there's nothing stopping you from repurposing it and pushing it elsewhere.
Yeah. I think that's why people like return like cameo characters or return bit characters and a lot of stuff, because like they're usually given like a very like relatable personality off the spot because they're just supposed to be there for one purpose to do one thing. But people end up really liking them and being like, oh, and then the person comes back and then become a fan favorite, and before you know it, whoops, they're an integral part of the story.
Yeah, unless you're like fucking uh Idan from Rogue One and Episode 4, the fucking I don't like you either guy. That was literally his like 2 lines in both movies.
Yeah, I like a lot of people liked that.
Fuck.
I'm sure. Bless you. I'm sure a ton of people liked that cameo, but
It was
I
cool to
did
see, but it
not.
just didn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
It was like, oh cute, a face that I know, but like when you think about the logistics of it, what even?
Yeah. Also, I found them.
Oh, did you? I feel
Yep.
like I found them too because there's a dead cell phone right there. Oh, I hear vibration.
Hello. Yeah, they were over here.
Well, I took the cameras.
Cool.
I'm the camera, thanks. Um, so, what about you, sir? Let's start off with your fucking story.
Oh, hello.
We'll hit some beats on like the types of characters you want to design, what you want them to be, and then kind of like I'll throw in my 2 cents to display the dichotomy between our situations.
Awesome. I'll do that while getting killed by this electric bitch.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so what I'm doing is, like I said, I'm trying to plan a story around my characters for a comic. And, I'm sorry, this is hard to focus.
Oh, I found it.
Kid, shut the fuck up.
Young Riches, control your, language, buddy. But oof, I thought this would be an easy game to commentate over. Oh. Oh, don't worry. I think I got this.
This is gonna look really bad.
But yeah, so I made these characters back in college. Please, yeah, explosion. And the initial concept was actually for a game. It wasn't ever a game that was gonna get made, but I just wanted to try designing characters for a video game. Essentially giving me an excuse to do something more detailed and to add something to my resume, being like, oh, look, I can do more complicated stuff with character design, because for those who don't know, I am actually a character designer. And the names are Clover and Garlic. You can actually go to my website and see them. It's apicelliart.com. Just try spelling it. You'll get there.
Look at you getting the .com, not even the .net.
Or the .ca, which I think is California for some reason. I don't know why I'd get a California address, but I could.
I mean, you should have tried to get the .rus, get some of that fucking Silk Road money.
Ooh. But yeah, so that's what it was initially. Can I not place this? Let me place my camera.
I fucked up your camera.
Cool. And we got this hallway in watch. But yeah, they were initially for a video game, and you were going to play as Clover, and it was going to be kind of like a sarcastic world, so you needed like a simple concept in order to have like a working design process for video games. That way it's easy for the players to just go around playing the game. Like, you needed that simple hook. And so mine was fighting werewolf vampires.
Ah, yes. The werewolf vampires.
Yep, the
Probably brown
singular creature
corns.
known as werewolf vampires. Here we go, we're getting the locations.
I think our teammate just murdered me. Yep.
Oh no. That's unfortunate.
Like I was coming to come and help you out, and then he shot me to death. Oh, it's
Damn
because I didn't fucking
it.
pick him up last round when he stepped onto a bear trap like an idiot.
That is like an idiot.
Right?
Oh boy. He's like 12 too, I think. From what I could hear before I muted him.
So, Clover and Garlic on your website, absoluteart.com.
Yeah, and so it's just supposed to be a ridiculous world, and so I kind of went ham on the ridiculousness. And because I had limited time, I had 3 months to design the characters.
Oh god, what's his name? Fuck. Oh, I can't think of his name. It was the perfect opportunity. And all I can think of is Rob Dyke, and that's not him.
I don't know what you were even thinking about.
The stupid not skater, not comedian from the show Ridiculousness.
Oh, Rob Dyrdek.
That's him. Oh, I guess Rob Dyke was kind of close.
It was very close, actually. I never noticed that. But yeah, so like I wanted to do a simple character and a complicated character because I only had 3 months to design them, and doing 2 complicated characters in 3 months was gonna be a lot. So I decided to ease my workload and do that. So I made a pangolin character who's pretty simple, pretty basic shapes. And the excuse for that is that a company called Pangolin Corp was messing with this basically magical substance. It's not magical, it might as well be. And they were messing with it, and they decided to test it on pangolins, and it made them super smart, but also made them look really dumb. So he would be like your sidekick character who's an AI in the game. And kind of collects things for you and helps a little bit when fighting, kind of like dog meat, I guess, in Fallout. But could also be taken...
Whoa, dog meat's amazing. Don't you fucking disparage his, oh, kind of helps in combat, oh, kind of collects things for you. If anything, you're describing a ghost.
I did say kind of like dog meat. Also, three people team for the win.
Except for that loser asshole who shot me, because he's a butt.
Yup. But yeah, I also planned for that to be a second, possible for that to be a second player, should a second player want to join in. And so it also gave me like ideas to make their movesets different, and it worked really well for the concept. But then like after graduation and not really working on new stuff anymore, it's like people really liked Clover's design, and the basic idea wasn't bad. So they were asking me if I was going to do anything with it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe. And then I ended up rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and remembered how much I just love that show. Not that I forgot, but just rewatching it again, it's always a good time. And I was like, I want to make something like that. And that's when I realized that my closest characters to Avatar, or the closest story I could make with my characters to Avatar was that story. And so I started working on because I already had the motivation of they would be leaving their village to travel across the land to go to another village. It's very watered down, essentially what it is. And the journey would take months, and so it would be, ample time to have story happen. And I realized that that's actually kind of a similar thing to Avatar, and I was like, you know what, maybe I want to try fleshing this out and making it into some kind of written story or a comic book. And so I started redoing it, and I realized that for a video game, having a character and a sidekick was all you needed. You didn't need anything else. other like side characters could explain the world to you. All you needed to do was, you know, just go around the world and do your thing. The reason to explore and the reason to learn and the reason to find things is because it's a video game and players are gonna want to do that anyway. So, I didn't really need a third character in order to like push the story along. There was no real reason for it. But then when I wanted to make a comic book, I noticed that there was a great need for another character. If the story was just gonna be Clover and Garlic doing this journey, it would be It would feel immensely contrived and immensely boring because there was nobody for Clover to play off of.
Which really makes sense because like one of the basic the fundamentals of storytelling comes in your like third grade English class where any good character needs a foil. And if that foil isn't either like a constant element of the world, it needs to be another character who's constantly in that character's like story. So that honestly makes like a lot of sense from a literal grade school perspective, which good on grade school for teaching us something useful.
Yeah. Ooh. All right. Well, I killed Ash. And it's funny because it's always like the simple stuff that is easiest to forget. And when you're reminded of the simple stuff, you're always like, oh, damn, right.
Stop the hostiles from securing the biohazard container.
Yes, oh damn right indeed.
Oof. That was the result of me possibly following an enemy and trying to think and multitask with brain things happening.
These things happen.
Yeah, so I came up with the idea for a 14-year-old girl because I'd already given Clover a sort of like tragic past, but like to the point where like she didn't care. Like she didn't care about her tragic past. Oof.
Oh, you got him. You got that boy.
Got him.
With how many bullets hit you, I'm really surprised you got that boy.
Well, that's what happens when you're awesome.
That's a word for it.
But yeah, because Clover, I wanted her to be between like the ages of 24 and 28, so like pretty, just an adult. And it's definitely like skewed from, you know.
Ooh, don't be saying that. That's not an adult, Brandon. You can tell by how often they say they don't adult.
It's very much influenced by, you know, just what I'm experiencing as, you know, becoming an adult.
Which all great art should be, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you're not pulling from your own life and your own, like, philosophy and your experiences, then you're not creating something as genuine to yourself or your work.
I definitely feel that way. You can definitely you don't have to be like depressing about it, but like it's okay if you do become depressed or create depressing stuff, because we all feel that way at some point. And Clover is a very cynical person, hides behind her sarcasm, and just doesn't really care about anything because she doesn't think anything matters. And so I thought that the best foil for her would happen to be this 14-year-old girl who hasn't grown up yet and is still in that naive stage of, I'm going to help the world, I'm going to make it a better place, and nothing's going to stop me. To the point where, like, she's just jumping in to help people despite the danger of the scenario without even thinking about it. Plus that, like, when Clover's trying to be practical and, like, think things through and might not, accidentally herself into an interesting situation. You have this young, inexperienced person make a dumb mistake that, it's reasonable because she doesn't know what she's doing. And it will force Clover to, act immediately, and it will create all these interesting scenarios just because she's got a very rash personality. Oof, ow. Damn it. XX Spartan XX 1525 killed me. He's Legion.
Well, yeah, just think of that name, man. All those X's, each one of those is pro.
1 op 4 remaining.
Oh my goodness, you have 1 health.
And I'm winning. Fucking Charlie cheating this shit.
Yeah, this whole like idea of like talking about this stuff came from me wanting to also be a teacher. I really enjoy being in a classroom setting, and I really enjoy passing on what I know and helping people get better at what they do. So I wanted to do a YouTube series I'm still working on, basically creating like a class schedule, like a syllabus essentially of what I want to do and what I want to teach. And so I decided to grab a couple of books on it, and so I'm going through, and I've actually written down, I have a character sheet for Clover and a character sheet for the new character whose name is Alicia. And
That's a D&D word.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a character sheet. And I used a questionnaire from a book. It's called "Save the Cat Writes a Novel." I'm sure people who have like looked into this stuff has probably at least heard of that before. It's an interesting book, and as I was reading it, I was thinking, boy, EJ would hate this, just because it teaches you the structure, and I just know you'd be like, fuck the structure, I do what I want.
Yeah, because fuck the structure, I do what I want. Life is chaos.
But while it is very basic, it does help, and I'm just now noticing I've never played on this map before.
Yeah, no, this is the new Australia map.
5 seconds.
It's interesting.
Op 4 hasn't found the biohazard container. They will attempt to locate it during the assault.
But yeah, I have character sheets done, and I realized after answering all like the questions that book had that I had made a character sheet for Clover a long time ago, like a couple of months back, before I really thought about making a class syllabus out of this kind of stuff. And so some of it was stuff that I transferred over to the new character sheet. Some of it was the same. But then there was actually a chunk of it that the book didn't mention that I thought was pretty important. And so the curious thing that ended up happening was I decided, I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to combine some questions and some points that I put down and answered on my old character sheet, and mix that with the stuff that I wrote down from what the book said. And it's a really interesting way that, like, the way I learned character design is not the only correct way. And it's always good to look back at how other people might design characters or approach the topic of character design or whatever it is that you're doing. It's always good to look at another person's perspective and go back to the basics, because you might realize something that you forgot, or combine knowledge that they might have that you don't, to create something entirely new or something that works better than what you could have done just by yourself or what they could have just done by themselves.
And on top of that, like, working out in a way that you're not used to, that you don't normally operate, would greatly help from falling into your own recurring tropes.
Oh yeah.
And because I don't want to talk shit on having a structure or anything, especially since it literally is the opposite of what I do. It would probably be beneficial for me to make a couple characters following that guide, simply so that I just don't make the same handful of weird over and over again.
Plus, I think you'd have fun with it. Like, the first character you'd create would be like, what would come out of that structure normally. And the second one might be a little bit off, and then the next one would probably be that structure if the structure was making fun of itself.
That seems pretty accurate.
But a philosophy that I also have, and one of the main reasons why I like Avatar: The Last Airbender so much, is that world building is absolutely a part of it, especially to like a story that has world-ending stakes. A lot of stuff has that. Like Marvel movies love to do that, as do many other movies. Because it's
Just gotta
usually
get that
something big,
blue
like
sky beam.
either the world's gonna end, or the city's gonna be destroyed, or something like that is gonna happen. Something where lots of people are gonna die, and it's just, oh my god, a 6% chance, and I got it.
Oh, fuck you. How dare you get your garbage can before I do?
Right. But it was pointed out in another video that I'd watched that you'll see these stories have world-ending stakes, but then like they'll take a break from the world-ending stakes. Like anime does this a lot with their arcs, with their story arcs. They'll have like a world-ending arc, and then they'll have a mini arc dealing with, you know, a very small problem that maybe one person has, and then that story is what people then remember the most, because people
Like
will
an
be like,
Ant-Man, or a Spider-Man, or an Ant-Man 2.
Exactly. And so making the story personal, it's all about making the story personal. So I try to view the world as a tertiary character in and of itself. And you don't like give the world speaking lines or anything, but you let the world speak through the characters that are affected by it. And you let yourself explore that world and explore all possibilities on, you know, both ends of the extremes of what can happen, because not only does that help the world feel more real, but when it comes time to have that world-ending conflict to occur and to climax, you're actually on the edge of your seat, because you're not thinking, oh man, billions of people are gonna die. You're thinking, oh man, that one town that had that one thing in it that I really thought was cool, that's in danger. And so is that tribe that I met, who used this cool thing to do other things. And and you're thinking about all that kind of stuff, that the journey you've been on, and all those people that were affected. You're not thinking about everybody, but just, you know, the ones that are important to you. And because that world feels so much more alive, you're more likely to, you know, feel that tension the way you want it to be felt, if those are your stakes that you're going for.
Exactly. Like, if the world is a character and the world is in danger, then that means everything that's been in that world that you love is what hits you. Like, the fact that they exist in this place that's magical is what makes all of it magical.
A fun exercise to try, actually, is I'm probably gonna, hopefully I don't ruin anybody's like first time experience watching Avatar: The Last Airbender by suggesting this, but I'm actually kind of curious because I've never thought of this before. Challenge to anybody who's never seen The Last Airbender: go pick up the Blu-ray. You won't regret it. It's only like $20-$30. Trust me, you will not regret it. But don't start from the first episode. Grab that season 3 and pop in the final disc and watch the last couple of episodes. I got her.
What is season 3? Is that an Earth book? Is that the Fire book? What book?
It's the Fire book.
Okay.
Yeah, so watch the last, like, whichever the last 4 episodes are. I know they're in, like, I think it's a 3-part finale. Also, 2 people were downed when I went in there, and I just...
You're welcome.
Wrecked them. Thank you. But yeah, just watch that 3-part finale. It probably feels epic just because the animation is amazing. You'll probably be into it by the 3rd episode, just because, you know, it's the length of it's a 90-minute movie essentially that you're going to be watching. but you probably don't much care for what's going on other than the the physical conflict in front of you and how amazing the animation is, and probably the music too, because music is amazing. Um, but then go back and rewatch the whole series, and then you'll probably rewatch those last 3 episodes, and even though you already know what happens, you'll probably cry. um, I know I do every single time because it's just so fucking good. And it's honestly because they do such a good job with the world building and the characters. Ooh. But that's interesting. I wonder if that's how that exercise would pan out. If anybody does try that, just definitely shoot us an email or something. Tell us how that went.
So-
'Cause I'm curious.
Thinking about it though, back to the world thing, like stakes and all that. Like, again, like Marvel movies, especially with Infinity War coming out recently, if you're gonna have those world-ending stakes, especially as often as the superhero genre, whether it be comic books, video games, or what have you, do have those stakes, I feel like you also shouldn't be afraid to end the world. Like, not all of it, maybe, but have some sort of huge, devastating event that will forever alter the course of, like, these characters and their growth. Have it be so impactful to them, so that way, one, you're delivering on a threat that you've made at least one or more times before this, and two, it kind of allows you a fresh new slate for these characters to grow from without also having to lose those characters. Unless you do a full wipe, in which case, them some balls.
Marvel movies ain't got them balls.
I mean, yes and no. They did just kill half the universe and
Spoilers.
trap Ant-Man in space. Or subspace? Uber space.
Spoilers.
I don't care. If people were going to see it, they've seen it. And if they
Yeah.
haven't, then they existed on the internet because they wanted to, and it got fucked for them before the movie even came out.
Oof.
Yeah, 2 bullets at a time wasn't working, buddy. I'm not gonna throw, I'm gonna run.
Should have been spotted. I'll run in a different direction. Yeah, and that's because, like, I actually saw a comic that somebody had made. It was a pretty funny comic, and it was essentially just, oh my goodness, what the hell am I? Ooh, Can I not be queasy?
They're gonna say, can I not queef for a second? Not sure why.
Oh. Well, I mean, I prefer not to do that either. Where is this Kamara?
Oh, that was a mistake.
I don't know where this Kamara is.
It could be Echo's drone.
Could be. Ah! Oh my goodness. That was a real scream, by the way. I wanted to emphasize that was a real scream. I was actually very scared.
Um,
Oh, cool.
so something about a funny comic?
Oh, yeah.
Oh wow, I fucked that floor up.
Yeah. There was a funny comic that somebody made where it showed an author. He had an open book, and the final page was just a happy ending was written on it, and it cuts to a crowd. And he starts to slowly move it closer to the book, and the crowd gets more and more excited to the point where he's like about to put it in, and they're like, "Oh my and then the next frame is him burning it up in a ball of fire, and the crowd being like, "Ah!" And all the comments on that were, like, this is depressingly true, and a lot of people were actually like, this twist is so common now that it shouldn't even be called a twist because people are afraid to put happy endings into their stories, and basically just saying stuff like that, like, oh, it's no stories aren't allowed to have happy endings anymore. Oh,
Well, I mean, that's kind of the problem, right? Is if you have a happy ending, you have to have spent that entire story working towards it being earned. And at the same time, having a happy ending means that you're just done with that story, you're done with that universe, and you're done with all of that. And for a lot of people who really love the worlds that they've created in these stories or games or what have you, a lot of those people like have a really hard time saying goodbye to it. So while it may be a happy ending for like the reader, the person experiencing it, or the player, it may, because it's a happy ending, be very sad for the person who made it.
Yeah, and like you came very close to saying what I was gonna say, which is that when you have an ending like that, where it has to be either a happy or bad ending, and going back to the world ending scenario, definitely don't be afraid to destroy the world, but no matter whether you save your world, you let it live, you only maim it, you better have a reason for whatever you choose. And it can't be, I mean, I don't want to say it can't be, because a story building to a happy ending and then suddenly just ending abruptly and sadly and silently, like, I'm sure there's a reason for it, and you can have a reason for it, and that reason can be you want to pull the rug out from under your audience. That will provoke a reaction no matter what, just because, that's how that is.
Like like the original ending to Kevin Smith's Clerks. In the original ending, the store got robbed, Dante just got shot and died sad and in a corner. And audiences hated it because it was sad out of nowhere and like just too real. And like I understand why he made that decision originally, because like sometimes that's just how life is, and that movie's nothing if not just a slice of these two guys' life. But at the same time, the reason it didn't mesh with audiences is because the story doesn't have to be life. That's the whole point of reading a story, is because it's not your life.
Yeah. He's in the window. Exactly, and that's why I feel like you shouldn't just arbitrarily pull the rug out from under the audience because you want to. It can be done if it's done right, and you at least hint that it's a possibility. At least once. It doesn't have to be like come all the way through. Maybe just like once, like joke about it. That way, it's not like 100% out of nowhere. Maybe just 99% out of nowhere. But I feel like you should have an in-universe or in-story reason for why it should end that way, and it should have some significance to the characters. Because my story would have world-changing stakes, and world-changing stakes are, in my opinion, just as valid as world-ending stakes. Because if you change a world from one thing to one completely other thing, like my story, I'm planning on it ending with the choice of basically removing the werewolf vampires from the universe and pushing the reset button on the last 100 years of in-story lore and everything.
Like removing them from the time stream, removing them, or like
no, just
getting rid of them. So if you're pressing that reset button, I feel like that's a whole new ball of wax.
Yeah, no, like I guess that's a bad way to put it. But just like removing them from the story. It's essentially changing the world, and also like I guess not removing the magical thing either, but like I guess removing the magical thing. So literally, like this world is one thing at 1 second, and then the next second it's completely different, and these characters lives and what they do are completely changed. And I think it's a good decision to have to make because I'm tying what the world is into my two characters. And, because the world has affected them too. And seeing how the world has affected others will in turn affect and change them like any story arc would. And I do absolutely. I have the freedom to choose whether that the world is saved, or in this case, whether it's changed or whether it's not changed. And I'm not going to say like which is the good option, which is the bad option, because it's more interesting that way, especially if in the future I actually do finish it. But one of them is a happy ending, one of them is a sad ending, and one ending probably people would end up wanting more than the other. And it's very possible that I could choose the sad ending to go with. And there's definitely like if you do stuff like that, you definitely just need a reason for it. Oh, that is the drone.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Like, even if something comes out of nowhere for the character, it shouldn't come out of nowhere for the audience. Whether it's hinted at through, like, events that don't involve them, or, like, there's literal foreshadowing, either in environmental design, symbols around them, or um, other interactions. Even if it completely blindsides them, there should be some sort of tell for the audience. So even subconsciously, they might come to expect it. Otherwise, it just feels like Shyamalan.
Yeah.
Except recent Shyamalan, and not Sixth Sense Shyamalan, where he actually did the hinting.
I hate Echo's drone.
Yeah, it's annoying. It's like it's also a complete possibility that what may be a happy ending for most of the characters ends up being the most devastating ending for another one, just because either how those characters like were structured against or with each other, or because of what they depended on. They don't have to be enemies, they don't have to be friends, but like two characters working together towards the same goal can absolutely want different things from that goal. So the positive outcome for one could be the worst case scenario for another. And I feel like that would also be a nice middle ground if you have that kind of overarching character growth come that way, where you could see that no matter how it ends, it's not going to be a perfect situation for everyone, but without being a completely nihilistic situation. Good job.
Well, I forgot which button did what.
Fair.
I did it!
I mean, you still did better than... Oh my god. That woman has explosive charges.
She probably wasted them all.
Like, at least I died like a dumbass.
Barrel. And like, it's interesting because like because I learned mostly art stuff from college, but I did learn some story stuff. A lot of story stuff I've taught myself. Either just from watching stuff and analyzing it, or by listening to other people's analysis of things. And I didn't just listen to one person. I've listened to a lot of people. Some people EJ is just like ugh about. And some people I am now ugh about too. But it's also like, it's definitely helped me gain some perspective. And
it's important to have those opinions that are disgusting, because
yeah,
they could legitimately change your mind about a topic, or they could just reinforce your like, no, that's definitely not how I operate in life, but not giving them the chance to state their point of view is as much a disservice to yourself as it is to them for having put forth the effort.
Yeah. Um, and so I realized that that there's like two ways I could teach character design, both the artistic side and like this creating a nice silhouette and all that awesome stuff. But what I really needed help with was like figuring out the story stuff, because it's not stuff I learned, really in college. And uh-oh. God, I hope nobody fuck kills me. Ah! Well, I did kill me. Um, and while I do prefer to keep talking about like 2D characters and animated stuff and all that, just because you can incorporate like artistic choices in with the character design. Live action also does need character design as well. It's just instead of it's a lot in the casting, because you can't exactly make everybody look exactly the way you want them to. Makeup and costumes
Then
is
you're called
where a lot of that.
racist.
Yeah. um, so like casting is definitely a part of it, and casting the person who looks the part, to get as close to that base person as you can. There's costuming and makeup and everything that you can do there, but I'd say it's like story, like writing, and is more important than like actually like the way the character looks. Not that it's not important, but like it's more important to get to nail that writing and that story in a live action character. Just because like that's where like you can't make the people look exactly the way you want them to, and animation will always be a little bit more vibrant in that sense. Why would you bother blowing that up? But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I actually suggested we play Star Wars in the beginning of this, or wasn't the only option. I did also suggest this game, which I'm happy we're playing this one. But the only reason I suggested Star Wars was because I was thinking about bringing up The Last Jedi and Luke and his amazing character writing.
Oh, it's so good. He's just the best, man.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't agree with how he turned out, but like, how fucking else would you turn out, man? Like, he's still the best case scenario for what happened to him.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I love that movie.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite quotes from the bonus features of The Last Jedi was that I think it was from either the assistant director or like the assistant producer. Either way, his job was mainly like tasked to aid Rian Johnson and just make sure that Rian Johnson like stays on task, and that if he questions himself, he can tell him, yes, this is a good thing to question, or no, you're wasting your time. Don't question it. It's fine. Kind of like a second opinion kind of guy. And I think he agreed with what Rian Johnson was writing for Luke. And when Mark Hamill, came out saying, "Oh, I really don't like this," I think they asked him what he thought about it, and he said that he understands why Mark disagrees with what Ryan did with Luke, but that Mark just kind of has to realize that he's not actually playing Luke in this movie. He's playing Obi-Wan, and this is essentially Luke's version of Obi-Wan. he's made a lot of the same mistakes and ended up in a very similar place, but this is how he is dealing with it. This is how Luke is dealing with being that mentor character who screwed up. And in that way, it's a very tragic story and a very understandable story, and probably one of the best stories you could tell with Luke ever.
Dude, now I'm just thinking about that fucking Obi-Wan crosscut in episode 4 and 3 that I showed you. So other than like the weird, gross music in the background, that was like really well done.
Yeah. If anybody doesn't know what he's talking about, he found this clip online. I'm sure you can just find it if you search for it. It's this fan edit of A New Hope, of just like maybe 2 minutes in the beginning, where Obi-Wan is talking to Luke about Darth Vader, and a lot of people had the problem that Lucas hadn't thought everything through, and that in hindsight, those lines about Darth Vader having killed Luke's father, it doesn't make any sense the way he said it, and it's just kind of contrived. But whoa, Jesus, and a lot of people hate the prequels. I don't hate them. I don't like them. But I'm not gonna sit down and be like, oh, you're the prequels. I'm gonna be like, prequels. But somebody intercut.
At the end of the day, for me, man, it's just more Star Wars. It's not the best, but it's better than Jar Jar Binks jerking off for 3 hours.
Truth.
I may have shot the hostage down, and then they escaped.
Oops.
Hey, Doc. Doc's dead. My game froze. That grenade broke my game.
Oh, yeah, no, my game froze too.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, because they voted to kick me simultaneously.
Oh. Well.
Yeah,
well.
kick me now, assholes. We won.
I did it! They were trying to kill me, and then they ended up killing the hostage, so we won!
I'm not even last in the game. End of that fucker's negative 315.
Oh, geez, who do I want to be? I'll be Thatcher. But yeah, somebody intercut the ending of episode 3 with Obi-Wan's speech. Like, they used it as like flashbacks, and they kind of like removed the audio from episode 3 and put extremely sad music to it that does still sound like Star Wars over it, and it's powerful. Like, I thought it was gonna be funny, but then I was just like, wow, that was just good.
It's just Guinness is such a good actor, man.
Yeah, he implies depth and a history that was not thought of at the time, and
especially since for him that shit was just a paycheck.
Yeah, he hated it. Uh-oh.
Oh, goody, I chose a sniper for the fucking basement.
Oof.
10 seconds to go. 5 seconds before insertion. Visual on high.
Anyway, I'd recommend anyone who's interested going and looking up that cut, because it makes that scene seem like goodish.
Ooh, that hurt.
There was a greater point to this.
Yeah, right good things.
So there was one thing I definitely wanted to talk about in like full.
Okay.
You know it's reinforced, right?
Sweet, I'm helping.
It definitely looks Oh God, on my screen that was all 100% there, and you did not blow a hole through it. Oh, that's not even you. That's fucking thermite.
Yeah.
And you're not thermite for once. I thought you were thermite.
Nope, I'm Thatcher.
Right, right. Anyway, I did want to talk about like your process for designing these characters and the journey they're going on. Like what kind of like how completely you're planning that all out and just leaving the interstitial bits for your general like day-to-day creative process, I guess, would be the way that I'm phrasing it,
Yeah.
versus
I
how
do
much
want
is like road mapped.
I do want to like do it every day. I need to get a calendar and start keeping track. I need to do that. But yeah, so the way I'm doing it is I really am gonna like value the save the cat thing with like it has like a beat sheet where like you this is a thing, this is a major point in the arc of the story that should be around this point, and then this should happen. And I prefer to do mine in like kind of like a wave. So instead of an arc, it's like there's like multiple arcs, I guess, to one overarching arc. A wave is really the best way I can describe it. To where it's like you think it's gonna end, but then doesn't end. We're going on another roller coaster, and then like one more time, and then it's finally done. So my final structure might end up looking a bit different than what the book is describing. But yeah, I just want to outline those big moments in the story that will have the biggest impact on character. Oof. Jesus, nobody shoot. Okay, good, they got it. So I'm planning those out. Basically, like the beginning, the push to do something, probably like the rising tension, the climax, and then the retread, the trying again, and then the resolution. Those big like those big bits that every juicy story has. And then I'm gonna like go in and I'm gonna just to help flesh out the world. Oh boy. Just to help flesh out the world, I'm gonna go in with the smaller moments of like, okay, well these are like the big dots. I imagine them. The analogy I think of in my head, I guess, is very similar to like a ruler. I'm gonna be like marking out the inches first, and then I'm gonna go in with the half inches and then the quarter inches later. Because it's always easier if you have to like go every quarter inch, it's gonna take forever, and you're gonna be like, oh man, I have so far to go. But then if you just start with the inches, it's like, oh geez, I have a whole ruler. Let me get even grittier with this, and then even grittier, and then it's like, oh, it's so fleshed out, and you had a good time doing it. Like either way will get you to the end, but like I think that doing the bigger stuff first and working your way down to the smaller moments will be a more fun way and a more fulfilling way to design story. No hate against anybody who likes to do it very linearly and write things as they happen. And I'm sure you'd actually get a much different story feel depending on which method you use. Oh, geez, that doesn't look good.
Yeah, it's not.
But I'm a big fan of like the way Avatar: The Last Airbender did their episodes because they're following one major arc and these characters will grow and change. But
Oh, I shot him to death though. I shot him when he was on the ground.
But they tell complete stories in each episode. Aside from the 2 or 3 parters that they have, each episode uh, has a singular arc. It's not a long arc because it's 20 minutes, but it is still an arc. And I want to use and eventually like the final like tick marks I make, the quarter inches or however the smallest unit pushing the story forward. I want to get down to is like each chapter in the comic book, like what happens in this chapter, what happens in this chapter. And each chapter will not only build the world, but it will also push these characters further along on their journey, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. Um, and so that's what I'm going to get to is mapping out those big moments will help anchor the story, and then go in and define the midpoints of those. So that way the flow feels nice, and then eventually get down to the level of like, all right, well, how does this transition, into this, and also what can I do with these cool moments? Because I am going to have more characters than just the 2 or 3, main good guys, main bad guys. I want to introduce like those side characters that are recurring small characters, or characters that the world have affected in some way, and those will mainly be dedicated to single single comic chapters, or just a couple comic chapters. But each will serve their own purpose in some way. Not that they won't feel like characters, just that they'll have a very specific purpose for existing.
See, all right, so you're mentioning like the measuring things by inches and stuff is very interesting to me because, like, I agree for standard story structure that is the way to do it. Like, don't plan out the little tick marks because then you'll forever be bogged down in the details. But like, um, because of the interactive nature of the storytelling for D&D, I have to do that. Like, essentially, I plan how a character would react and like grow in a certain situation, and then whether or not those situations arise is completely incidental. So the difficulty comes in like creating that prediction and that possibility for growth, whether or not the growth ever comes, but like forever just knowing and understanding what that growth would look like. And so, in a way, I literally have to make the story quarter inch by quarter inch, even while just planning out dozens of massive overarching growths, even though little to maybe like 20% of them will ever actually happen.
It is interesting that you mentioned that, though, because it's actually a better way of describing how I want my singular chapters to feel. Because knowing the characters and like throwing them into a situation is essentially what I want each chapter to be, and having different characters existing for like one purpose or for one personality trait, or exemplifying one possibility of existing in this specific, as a result of this specific world, would definitely be a part of that. But yeah, just knowing the characters and then throwing them into situations and seeing how they react is essentially the smallest, tick mark on that ruler that I would eventually like to get to. But I'm working my way down from that rather than like starting from there.
Yeah, which in essence is kind of like, well, my character design process for most things is like, here's an idea for an archetype I have. And I'm like, all right, this is where that archetype came from. This is this archetype's disposition. This is what this archetype looks like. And eventually, this is the archetype's name, and this is how this person kind of interacts with the world after getting a feel for what they've been over the course of like them already having existed in the world for a long period of time. So it's a very loose and liquid design process. Like, I just start with the idea, the role that I'd like them to fill, And then in the end, they may not even fill that initial role. Though it could be something completely and 100% different. But it's just like that jumping off point for me to get from A to B to really feel them as a person rather than the object that they were uh, initially that they initially were in the concept phase.
Yeah, definitely. Because like I definitely start from like an artistic point. Like I start with like an idea, and then I just draw that character until I'm like, yeah, that feels good. And then I'll start drawing them more. And as I'm drawing them, I'll start like trying to make a character sheet of like their likes, their dislikes, their wants versus their needs, and like plot out their mini story or where I think their story should go. Um, but I do like focusing on like the artistic elements more because that's what I was taught.
Yeah, yeah, I totally understand that, and in a way, I'm kind of jealous of it because when I finally plan out a character's design, whether I draw it or just like write down what they look like, um, I find it very difficult to just start from nothing and make a cool thing, just because characters for me are so steeped in their personality. Like, I can't be like, oh, I'm gonna draw a fucking quirky person who's having fun. It's like, all right, well, this person's parents were murdered, but like they cover it up with fucking a heroin abuse and riding a bear. Uh, so then like I'd have those elements in there. Like maybe there are a couple like needle marks on the arm or something, and like they're riding the bear and they look like they're having a good time, but like their eyes are glazed over or some shit. Um, because like when I finally get around to drawing that character, I not necessarily every bit of personality, but like I need it to be a perfect encapsulation of that character in that moment, you know? I, I
Hmm.
I treat it more as a snapshot of that character in time rather than just like a cool design I can make for fun because I can't make anything for fun.
Yeah, no, that's a very it's a much different way of like going about like the starting the process than me. Um, cause like I did start with writing with the character sheet again with the most recent character because I haven't really technically designed Alicia yet. I started on it. Um, but for the longest time, she was just like an idea in my head. I tried drawing her out a couple of times. I was not happy with how it turned out ever. But then recently, I actually just drew out like a three-quarter view of what she looked like, and I actually really, really liked it. And I could see bits of that personality that I had written down for her, even in just this like basic three-quarter headshot. Um, and you can go see that if you go follow me on Instagram at Apicelli Art. um,
Dude, I found a fucking in another art website that was just like by artists for artists. I read the terms of service and all that, and they don't steal your shit. So I was super excited, but then like I uh I forgot the name of
no.
the website. So I was totally gonna start posting my art there because I want somewhere to post it, and it's just like I never figured out the name, and now it's lost forever to me.
That's unfortunate. That sounds like it's the perfect website for you.
Yeah, like Instagram's owned by Facebook, so they're stealing everything, including your second-born child, because Facebook gets the firstborn.
Securing the container. Hostile activity. Neutralize the threat. Op 4 neutralized. Mission successful.
Um, so yeah, you're happy with Clover's initial design then?
Alicia's, but
Alicia, thank you.
yeah.
Of course you're happy with fucking Clover's design.
But speaking of Clover's design, I am going to be redesigning it slightly, um, just because I am still like submitting my stuff for industry work. So I redid my website. I sent you the link to it the other day, cause, and I made sure to specify that I redid the layout of my website and that it wasn't like I changed any of the drawings. Um, I need to though. The only ones I don't need to change actually are the very simple ones of like Sir Thulu and Baby Dracula. Those can stay. Those are fine. um, those are my best ones in my opinion. And I may or may not worry about the uh, the purple fire hair girl one. I'm not really that sure I need to fix a lot of that one. Well, I mean, I'm sure I need to, but I'm not sure if I really care enough to.
I mean, even if you redraw her in a way, like, she's been repurposed at this point. Like, not repurposed, but that creative energy, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because originally it was her story that you were thinking of, and then Clover came along and you kind of dropped her to the wayside and started working with Clover.
Yeah, I definitely had an idea for a story for Zoe, but I don't know, it was just never as clear or good as Clover's. In my opinion.
Oh, damn you, Shotgun. I hit him so many times. Oh, he was so low. Eat a dick. Fucking no-name bastard.
But yeah, I definitely need to redraw Clover. I just need to doodle them a lot, and then I can redraw them. Because one of the problems with her is that it doesn't, like, I can't keep her design consistent. I can't keep her drawing consistent. So I definitely want to fix that. But part of it's going to be simplifying her down, because now I'm going to need to draw her multiple times for like multiple frames, and a lot of the ideas that I came up with for the game, I've changed for the comic, and I actually like the stuff I've came up with the comic more, and I think it would actually be an even cooler game because of it. And I'll let you know like everything that I've changed after the stream. But I'm very excited to start doing it. And I'm gonna see what I can do like about her hair. I like her hair, but I wanna see if there's a way I can simplify it just a bit to make it easier. I don't want to change it entirely though.
Yeah, I don't blame you, man. When I first came up with concepts for a couple of the character, like the really important characters who are inhabiting the D&D continuity currently, when I first started like just thinking of their concept, what they do, what they look like, what they are to the world, and all that. One of them in particular was just a very like grandiose character, very like noble in disposition and stature, would wear like very fine things, just not even to enjoy them, but just to show off to people. And because of the nature of what she was, like the design was going to be very extravagant, and it involved like the character had wings, but like it was like a magical kind of thing where they'd retract into like a tattoo form essentially on the back and shoulders when not in use, so that way there don't have to be wings everywhere all the time. But like then because of that, there's like a whole feather motif involved in the dress, and like there were like fucking silver inlay because Silver's traditional purifying powers would technically be harmful to her, but she's fucking super prideful, so she'd be like, I don't need your silver shit, bring it on. And then that's a whole thing, and so it just became a lot very quickly.
I bet.
Like, overall, I'm gonna design the shit out of that original idea one day, but for what it is and for what it was more than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Since I've managed to cut down her design from such like a fucking show off to a more, well, I was gonna say conservative, but that is wildly inaccurate. In a different manner of speaking. I cut it down to like basic leather boots, a fucking like weird harnessy corset design and just uh like runic letters on the clothes. And other than that, it was just her like actual features, and a little bit of jewelry, which doubled as a summonable weapon because she had the power to create like fucking claws. But I figured if they just came out of nowhere, that'd be kind of dumb. I want them to come from something, so I added in little those little hand claw jewelry things where you put them on and they're like little jewel claws.
Yeah.
Essentially those, except with a large
Huh.
like stone in the middle to act as a magical focus of sorts. So that way they're there, they look kind of claw-like, and they justify why she suddenly has big-ass super claws.
Huh.
So I managed to like bring down her design from 10 to a nice reasonable 6. So I definitely I feel like that's also a danger, is going too hard too fast in the design and getting way more than you need when what your character is can be explained in a much more simple manner through how they look.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have no idea why. I'm pretty sure other creators feel this way as well. But just the oh my god, how did I not kill that person? Oh, he had like barely any health left. That's unfortunate. But I'm pretty sure other creators feel this as well. I always get so giddy at the thought of like the shit I'm going to put my characters through.
Oh, absolutely. Especially as a fucking DM, I'm so excited to just like murder hopes and dreams.
This must be what George R.R. Martin feels like every time he sits down at his old fucking computer ready to type. Like, who am I gonna kill this time?
It really is like that fucking Last Week Tonight cameo where he's like, I just killed 3 of your favorite characters.
Yup.
But I mean, I'm not going that ham with it, because that'd be a dick thing to do as a DM, because it's not your story, it's the players. But
Then you'd be Logan.
oof.
I mean,
basically, what I've managed to do is, through designing a handful of characters, I've set up clashing ideals and philosophies in ways that do not at all mesh with the core groups, but at the same time, these characters are very important to the group. It's like your aunt and uncle, and you really don't agree with how they're like fucking raising their kid, but like it's not your kid, but at the same time, you kind of wish it was your kid, kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
It's a lot like that, except involving demons and shit. So I can still have that like great conflict and a possibility of the entire world being turned upside down, perspective-wise, not like stakes-wise, and have that kind of danger, even if it's only like emotional danger and suspense.
Oh, good, I got a wishbone.
I'd say it's kind of like spoilers, hashtag don't give a fuck. If instead of being a piece of shit, kind of abusing Harry, but still looking after Harry for his whole life because he wanted to bone his mom, Snape had instead been nice to Harry and looked after Harry his whole life, and then at the end turned into an abusive shit because he wanted to bone his mom, rather than the opposite. But again, like I was saying earlier, there's a chance that those threads may never be encountered.
Yeah, like I don't know. There's something there's I'm actually like at a loss for this one because I don't know why I enjoy it so much. Because you're right, like it comes out of nowhere, but I still really like it and it makes sense to me.
What is it? I want to know.
Oh, what you just said, Snape.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, like they mentioned that he wanted to bone Lily like once in like book 3 or whatever, or that like James was a dick or something. Um,
Hmm.
but it just kind of comes out of nowhere. It didn't feel earned, and it's like Snape was a cool character without having to like Harry, you know? You didn't have to redeem him. It just kind of like softened him and made him a little more shallow in my eyes.
Proceed to biohazard container location.
And like I could totally see how that happens. Um, but like it's weird. Like I can't deny that what you're saying is like yeah no yeah, but at the same time, I still really like it. um,
Like like I said though, it's my the this character's like serving the same kind of focus, just in reverse, and like
mhm.
it's really difficult because um oh god damn it, now this one's electrified. Because like I'm doing everything I can to hint at that clashing ideology and all that, like to set up that there may be something that like something more than meets the eye here, and that things could go very badly for the people involved, all of that. But if nobody catches those signs, it doesn't matter if I gave them, it's still gonna feel like it came out of nowhere and that it's undeserved, you know? And that's
I get
that's a
that.
danger of having like an oral storytelling format versus a thing where people can go back and point to comic entry 35 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's really dangerous trying to set up a twist, especially if only one person involved in this twist is gonna like it.
And I guess oh, that's what's been spotting me. Son of a bitch! I forgot that person can do that. Yeah, to the end of revealing character things out of nowhere. I know a lot of people very much do not like the way J.K. Rowling did the whole gay Dumbledore thing. Um, which
Yeah.
fair, but even so, at least she did something with it in Grindelwald. Like, um, I don't like Crimes of
All
Grindelwald.
right,
Let me
but
be
like,
clear.
hold up. How much of that did J.K. Rowling write, and how much was she like a creative producer for?
She wrote the script.
She wrote the script?
Yes.
Well, that's probably
I,
why it's a hot pile of shit.
you know, I didn't want to say that, but yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I really don't know how much of it is her and how much of it is like script assistance because like she also wrote the first one, which it's my personal favorite Harry Potter movie,
Well,
but
that's because it was a visual spectacular. Newt was awful.
I
He was
like
bad.
I
I
love
know.
Newt.
He was acted poorly. I think I think if you got like Matt Smith to play Newt, it would have been a much better performance. Because Matt Smith can do that really just unapologetically awful character well.
Well, I actually disagree with you on that one because I don't think it was poorly acted. I think it was acted just like it was supposed to be because it's not a Matt Smith kind of in your face I don't care kind of character. It's a meek I'm going to do it the way I think because I'm right, but I'm just too meek to tell you straight up. It's like
Yeah,
a
Matt Smith can
different
do
version
that,
of that.
and you're right. It 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 wasn't poorly acted. I was just trying to give the character an out. I just think it was a shitty designed character who served a shitty purpose and a shitty story. It was a fun ride. It was beautiful to watch. I liked his personal motivation and nothing else. Um, and the way they just fucked over the best character in the story was a hot pile of dicks in my face, and I didn't like it.
Yeah. I will agree with that last point. But regardless, yeah, I don't like Fantastic Beasts: Crimes of Grindelwald. But the one thing I will say that it got right, or that it did well, was how it used the relationship of Dumbledore and Grindelwald, and actually used that plot point or that character trait that J.K. Rowling gave Dumbledore that didn't have any effect on Harry Potter's story. And as like a response to people who don't like it because it wasn't at all present in the original Harry Potter, I question for you who think that, where was it supposed to be used? Like, was there supposed to be a funny scene where Harry walks in on Dumbledore making out with a guy and just been like, "Oh, so sorry." Like, it's not Dumbledore as a character. There was no...
at most, it would have been organic if there was like... The only way to pull that off is if Harry was talking to somebody, or to him about somebody, thank you, about somebody, and like, Dumbledore just makes an offhand comment about him being like a wonderful man or something with like a wistful look in his eyes, and that's it, and that's all you need.
Yep. Truly, like that would have been the best way to do it, and people probably would have still complained about that because it wasn't overt enough. It's like,
yeah, because it's
fuck
not
you,
gay
learn
enough.
to... It's like, fuck you, learn to read subtext.
Right? Like, sure, a dude's over and it's date rapey, which it is. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying that there has to be an equal standard where if a gay dude's over, it's still date rapey. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. But yeah, like that's my defense of the Dumbledore thing. And you know, like I said, say what you want about Crimes of Grindelwald. They did everything but say, you can like come out and be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Dumbledore, yay!" Which, you know, that would have felt weird if they stopped the movie to say that. Rather, they used it as a plot point to show why Dumbledore can't go face Grindelwald and stop him himself, because they still, you know, they show that he's like pretty much the most powerful wizard ever still, and it's like, Dumbledore, why don't you go face Grindelwald? And then it doesn't say because I loved him.
They're trying to
it's
kick
just...
you because you never went into the point.
Oh, well, maybe they should watch the live stream and they would understand.
Your ass.
Did he say I'm ass?
Oof.
He literally just turned his mic on to say I know he probably said I'm an ass. But I like.
I
to
mean,
think
you
he
were
just said,
walking
"I'm
around in
ass."
circles while they were securing, but I understand. Thoughts are hard.
I need a shirt that just says I'm ass.
Yeah, I'm a Pokemon master.
Oh, there was a picture Rebecca showed me. It was like, the caption was, "Can I wear my fishing shirt to school picture day, Dad?" And the dad's like, "Sure, son." And it's a Bassmaster shirt, but he's turned like 3/4 to the camera, so his shirt looks like it reads Assmaster.
Yes.
And he's like in 5th grade. Amazing picture, but yeah, like they don't like it's very much alluded to in Grindelwald that like Dumbledore had a very intense relationship with Grindelwald, and that he still loves him. And there's one scene in particular where he goes to the Mirror of Erised, and he sees a much younger Grindelwald, and sees him turn into evil Johnny Depp Grindelwald, and then he recovers the mirror, and it's one of the better scenes, and one of the like objects in the movie is literally an object created out of basically a love pact that the two made, and Newt snatches it. I don't think he knows what it is, but he snatches it and he knows it's Dumbledore's. AK Pro killed me, so if you want to go ahead and go to town on his ass, go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait for him to come down.
I kind of figured that was gonna happen, but you know. Uh, but yeah, like Dumbledore's like, even though he doesn't agree. Oh Jesus. Um,
All right,
even
not sure how he
though,
didn't hurt her, but
even though Dumbledore is not, you know, he doesn't condone the person that Grindelwald became. That heirloom is still very precious to him, and him just like being so happy to recover that at the end of the movie was kind of nice. And it's like the only like good thing that I enjoy about Fantastic Beasts 2. Other than a couple other small things that went nowhere, really, you know, anything that wasn't the main plot, I liked.
so I know we talked about it a little bit, or I talked at you about it a little bit, but um, it, it's like the same kind of parallel with the Star Wars New Canon books. They had a gay character, one of the first openly gay characters in the Star Wars universe. Not the first, but one of. While he's probably never going to be on screen, it was still very like, you know, it's a cool character. Um, it's in like the book Aftermath, I think. Um, but his name is Singer. He was like an Imperial Internals Affair agent working as an interrogator, and he just busted out, deserted the Empire, and is working with like a group of rebels to do some things. Um, at some point, they need to like get information out of the guy, and he's like, "I used to interrogate people all the time. I know this one trick that's definitely gonna work." Um, I I I've used it before, whatever, um, on a guy. He had such a pretty face. It's a shame I had to ruin it. Like that's perfect. He's doing his job. He's serving his purpose. His purpose isn't to get super gay on somebody. It's to do his job. But you can still introduce this like homosexual subtext to the character without it stealing his actual like character. You know?
Yeah.
Like it served purpose. It gave information. It gave relevant information as well as extra flavor information, and it was just a really great way to handle it. There's some other lines in there too, but I feel like that's like the shining one. And then later on, he's like duoing a mission with a bounty hunter assassin Zabrak lady. I don't fucking know her name. Sid, something. I don't remember. And they
Hang
were
on
just
one
doing their
second.
mission. Oh yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, but my prediction is that this guy picked Doc so that way he can down me, revive me, and down me again without getting kicked. Continue.
Actually, I believe that.
What? Never mind. Paid Savage Pug murdered me. And he's about to murder you.
Yeah, he can do it too. I don't give a shit.
He's about to get kicked. Oh, he's reviving you.
Anyway,
Op 4 drone located the biohazard container.
all right, I'll fucking deal with that. Whatever. Oh god, it can kill me. Um. Anyway,
they killed
they're
their
off on
doc.
the mission, and he turns to the Zabrak lady and he's like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" And she's like, "Yeah, we can have sex after this." And it was like literally that blunt and overt and forward, and he's like, "No, I'm not gay. I'm not that way. I'm gay." And it was like literally like fucking third grade ass Dr. Seuss dialogue, except not Dr. Seuss because that's crazy. But you know, it was like there was no subtlety, there was no decent writing involved. It was just like, in case you missed all the good writing about this character in the book, here's a fucking literal bullet point for you. And just like, it totally undermined the rest of the what they did to portray that about that character.
That's unfortunate. Both that and what happened to you.
Yeah, but I mean, I put up a wall.
One friendly remaining.
He's fucked.
Protect the biohazard container.
Ooh,
All
that
friendly.
is not how you want to handle that situation. Um, but yeah, so I just, it was a very relevant problem, and I understand why writers do it and they make it so heavy-handed because we're in such like a volatile, inclusive uh place right now, especially with widely available media. It like if you're not doing everything, then you're not doing anything. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, it undermines the art form in able to adhere to demands, and that's not how art should work.
It really isn't. I'm like, sure, there needs to be material that catered to people who don't like to have subtext or any extra meaning to their, their entertainment. Um, and during a time where, um, people need more exposure, um, sometimes you do just every once in a while need a character to be a certain way and everybody know it just to help a cause, but like I don't think that those ones are gonna, be the ones that last the test of time, They're gonna help when they need to help, but then beyond that point, people are gonna forget about them, and it's the ones that do it tactfully and artfully, ones that are written well, that are, gonna be looked back on and be like, yeah, that was perfect.
Exactly. It's not gonna be like, wow, I really see myself in this character, and that's the character that you absorb yourself into, and it's your entrance into this world. It's gonna be like, oh, this is fucking Captain Gay Pants, who I'm supposed to identify with. Whoop-de-doo. And part of the problem is like you've got the people who've been making characters forever, doing these designs, like writing these stories. Um, and I definitely agree that there hasn't been enough diversity of people, diversity of experience, and diversity of culture in writing those stories. But at the same time, forcing that diversity isn't going to make a better story. It's giving the tools to people who can tell stories, who are from different places and walks of life, that's going to make those better stories. It's not going to be forcing them into the position. It's going to be allowing them to tell the story that they feel is important that's going to make an impact.
Down to 5 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, that's why. Oh, God.
Ready for hostile action.
All right, well, here we go here. That's why I feel like Black Panther is a supremely important movie because it's exactly what it needed to be then. Um, but it's in no way a perfect movie. It's a good movie, but it's not a fantastic movie. But it it is definitely going to remain that cultural pillar for decades to come, just because it helped push forward steps for the culture where it desperately needed it. Where like literally the last like good movie that I can think of, um, geared towards well, not towards, but for black culture was Get Out, and that's like a completely different thing. That's a horror story, um, displaying a problem in the culture through a very like symbolic means, whereas Black Panther is a celebration of culture, so it serves a completely different purpose. But it, the fact that it is what it is makes it important, and it's going to stay important for that reason. However, because it is what it is, does not make it perfect. Like,
Mhm.
there's still writing flaws but it's like you said, what it needs to be now. There's going to be a better movie that Black Panther could have been in the future, written by people who were inspired by Black Panther, and that's going to be wonderful. But Black Panther isn't the best that we're gonna get from that like writing perspective, but it certainly helped open the door for things that are better to come. And I hope that that's like, in a way, what Dumbledore's Dumbledore being gay can be for like people who want to write stories involving gay characters in the future who have like that kind of important role to pop culture. But like, I just don't think Dumbledore is going to be the one 60 years from now that people are going to be like, yeah, this really helped open up doors in this art medium.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm sorry, that was really long-winded, but I felt like I needed to go into a lot of detail and perspective for that one.
This is a podcast. If it's not long-winded, I don't think you can call it a podcast.
5 seconds.
But yeah, I totally agree.
The diffuser has been recovered. You found a bomb. Way to its location and defuse it.
And actually, this is not nearly as important or impactful as what you were talking about, but that's a very similar way to how I feel about Breath of the Wild. Is it's the best that we have now, but I don't think it's going to be the best we're ever going to get. Because open world games have been like, they've been getting very bland for a while now. Like in the beginning, when people like didn't know how to like quite work with an open world and were just kind of like throwing shit in a pot, seeing what they could mix up, it was very interesting, and people weren't afraid to try a whole host of different ideas and interesting things. But after a while, like the formula stuck, and Ubisoft fucking like just went to town with that shit. I feel like this bomb is gonna go off at some point. I hope this shotgun can reach if I need to. Oh jeez.
Ow.
One friendly operator.
Yep, there's a hole in that wall now.
Last stop standing.
I think we got it. Oof.
Ow.
But Nintendo, like, they, in a very Nintendo fashion, took a look at all of the open world games and
Yes! No.
Nice. No.
Wait. What? Bomb disarmed, but we won?
Yes.
I
don't know what happened.
Whatever, I'll take it.
Yeah, like Nintendo
Oh,
looked
because
to
we're disarming bombs, and they disarm our disarmer. Got it.
Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was really confusing. It totally pulled us off track.
It's okay. But yeah, like Nintendo like looked to a bunch of different open world games to inspire Breath of the Wild, and they did a lot of things that other games really should have done. They put more focus on world design and exploration and finding things and having your own adventure. It sacrificed a very tightly knit story, but it gained, I think, probably the best open world gameplay that I've ever played. And it doesn't stay that interesting forever. You got maybe 60 hours before you're like, I'm done. But people, like, it totally depends on who you are. Like, people can play for 100 hours before they're like, I'm done. 120. Some people fucking collected all the goddamn Korok seeds. I don't know how. There's 999 of them. I don't think you were supposed to collect all of them. I think you were just supposed to collect as many as you felt you needed, and that there was enough to like make any place rewarding to scout out and find. And Nintendo somehow made finding things in an open world game super fun again. And I totally respect what they did, and it's definitely the best that we have now, in my opinion. But I definitely don't think it's going to be the best open world game we ever get. But I do think it's going to be like the start of a new, hopefully the start of a new generation of open world games where like more focus is put on, finding neat stuff and having your own adventure. in an open world. And they're gonna find different ways to make finding items and collecting items more unique and fun and feel better than 99 Korok seeds. And maybe next game will be fun for 80 hours, and the next game after that will be fun for 100 hours. And I think it's gonna start a wheel of inspiration that'll hopefully lead somewhere awesome.
Absolutely, and like that's honestly all I can hope for from like the Dumbledore and Shinjir thing is that maybe maybe they won't inspire people to be like, I like love this character. This character's like me. I can make characters like this character for people like me. But maybe it can inspire them at the very least to make something to want to make something better for people who come after them. You know?
Oh yeah, like my hope is that in like 10 or 20 years, I will look back on Breath of the Wild and be like, if I have kids, be like, this when this game came out, this was new. Like this was the best thing ever, and they'd be like, "What? But it doesn't have this or this or this. How is this fun for you? This game is so basic." And I'm like, "But it
You
wasn't."
just on the slide make them play the actual original Legend of Zelda.
That feels like a pretty good stopping point for the stream, though. Very nice thing to end on.
You know, it does make me kind of want to talk about like doing maybe a mini stream for how to implement like diverse characters well, but I don't know how we do that.
I can't say I have anything insightful to say there other than just write a character, a good character.
Exactly, that's what it comes down to. Just make a good character, and if that character happens to be something of one of those groups, fantastic. If it needs to be, focus on making a good character and then make them of that group, unless it's so culturally intertwined, in which case, good fucking luck.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm not like saying that this is the best character ever written because I don't think so. But like fucking Barney on How I Met Your Mother, like you can have characters where they're just their thing is like I want to have sex, and make him gay or trans or whatever, and have antics ensue because that is a personality type and that is a type of character. You just got to make sure that they're written well is all, and that the joke is not at the wrong expense if it's a jokey kind of character like that. Like Barney's mainly funny because he's an idiot. But you can't forget to actually just sit down and like, okay, this character is more than what they're boning or what their skin color is.
I mean, unless that character is literally just what they're boning or what their skin color is, but in that case, you can do that and still write a good.
Yeah, I think that was sort of what I was about to say. It was like, you can have that as part of the characters, like that influences like some of the decisions or scenarios you can put your character in. Like if you wanted to bring up like social issues, like say you have a white character and you put him into it, and a police district or something like that, or like the police show up, you're not going to be that tense, but then you like make that character a black character, and suddenly that's a tense scene because you know how society is, and it's like you feel like there's going to be something to be said about that moment, like you're going to learn something from that scene.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, although at the same time, I kind of disagree with that because at that point the character's then again reduced to a tool, but at the same time, tools are useful for things. They're how we created a civilization.
Well, I mean, I think it's people will like because of course some people will champion that and be like, yeah, it's bringing up the social issues, or you get those people who are like, yeah, you need those overt characters, but you also have people being like, oh, they're the token character, they're only there for this one thing. But it's like, you could literally say that about any character. Like, the reason that characters are, characters is because they, as complex as you can possibly make them. I think Tolkien probably might, I mean, he has a complex world, but like, characters, even the more complex ones have, they have some stereotypes. They only go so deep because they're not actually real people. Real people will always have more gray areas and more complexities than a character possibly can. And you only really notice that you use like certain things as tools for character development or tools for storytelling when it's like based on a marginalized group or based on like talking about a current social topic, because then it becomes like taboo, or it becomes like, oh, you're walking a thin line. And it's like, but it's just storytelling, and it's it's useful for saying something. Yeah, it's simplistic and maybe a bit over the beating you over the head with it, but like, you did something similar with this character and nobody said a thing. And it's like, oh yeah.
Then I also feel like that's partially has to do with the purpose of the story. Because if the purpose of the story is to entertain, that's one thing. If the purpose of the story is to illuminate the issue, then all of a sudden, then a whole bunch of different lights get put on it,
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like well, I actually can't come up with a fair comparison to that. Never mind. So I was gonna be like, it's like putting Finn in Star Wars, and how many like super race like, oh, black main character is a and I was gonna be like, and then turn it to like X movie that raises issue with like X thing, and it does thing, but I couldn't think of a movie that in any way paralleled that, while at the same time giving a different result just because its purpose was different.
Mm-hmm.
It exists, but I just can't think of an example.
And yeah, that's why I hate like the token argument. Like, sometimes it's very situational, and sometimes it is valid, but like a lot of times, like people are shouting token character for Finn, like you said, but it's like, I mean, do you really have to? Like, his character isn't about his race. He's just a prominent black character. Like,
Yeah, literally. There are black people in Star Wars, but there literally aren't black people in Star Wars. They're all just people.
yeah.
We're all just people. And then we have Wookiees, and Chewbacca's the token Wookiee, unfortunately.
Womp womp.
It's a real issue. We need more Wookiee representation.
Oh, can I just fucking say, watch the Han Solo movie? I died when Han Solo, or the kid playing Han Solo, because I don't believe for a second that's Han Solo, just started fucking making Wookiee noises like a child would at Chewbacca. He's just hanging there, about to be murdered, just being like, oh.
Oh
It's
my
like, is this
God,
seriously
I
a scene?
love this subtitling for that scene. It's like, we do fake, make secret battle of pretend.
It was so bad, but like that, it's definitely part of the movie that's like so bad that it's hilarious that they decided to do that for real.
Oh my God,
like
I loved
like that's
it.
a real scene in a Star Wars movie.
Like, trivia bit. Apparently the language is called a Shri Wook. Not something I knew.
Huh.
Yeah. Also, the Wookiees later on in the movie, that one that looked like a fucking like if Wookiees had anti-drug campaigns against meth. Because boy howdy, those fellas were, and we're looking good.
Yeah. I also thought it was weird how Lando wanted to fuck a robot.
I didn't. It's Lando, baby. I don't think it's that
Glover was
Lando wanted to
perfect.
fuck a robot. It's that Lando fucked a robot.
Yeah. Donald Glover is a perfect Lando, though. I gotta say, like, really good.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, when he was being charming, he seemed more like himself, but like when the acting got intense and like there was shit happening and he was like emoting and not just charming, that's when I felt he was like the most Billy D with his Lando, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. Because like he
That
really
does.
managed to channel that distress.
Hmm. He's just an amazing actor.
He's damn good. He's a good time. Hey, you wanna promise a topic for next quotation marks week? Um,
I
that we
do have
probably
three
won't
days off in
deliver
a
on.
row. I do have 3 days off next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I mean, it's possible we can do another. We're gonna try and keep this going. We're trying to do this weekly. Thursday's our default day, but should work and or something else come up, we might move it to either Wednesday or Friday, and then from there, depending on like what our next most open day is. But just the general rule will be once a week. We're gonna try to do this, and I don't know. Um, I have no idea. I felt like I had like a secondary idea um, before suggesting the story one, but now I have no idea.
I mean, we could attempt Spider-Verse again, even though I completely forgot everything amazing I wanted to say about it. And then there was that
Yeah.
other option we had, maybe?
Um, I could
Oh,
buy
you,
the Blu-ray is out, so I could buy the Blu-ray and rewatch it.
well, actually, you know what? We were just fucking talking about Solo, so we could do a breakdown of Solo and like talk about how it fits into our pictures of Star Wars.
You know what? That's interesting. I'd be down for that because we can always transition into Rogue One too, and I have some. I could talk about Rogue One for a while.
Rogue One to Rogue Two.
I would actually go see that. I'd be like, all right, I'm interested. I'll bite. What do you got for me?
Uh,
Like it's a subtitle, The Roganing, with Joe Rogan.
he's just in an X-wing flying around, like, "What the fuck am I doing here?" Just
Kind of
constantly
like
spinning.
like in like a cameo, like fucking in JonTron Starcade, but just everybody like, Ross, are you in the ocean? Yup, definitely in the ocean. Definitely in the ocean.
Oh,
It's beautiful.
oh, that's cool. That's good shit.
Indeed.
All right, well, you know what? I'm really down for that. I'm actually excited for that because I heard a quote. I don't remember from whom. I think it's Pablo Hidalgo, maybe the current like story guide for Star Wars. The dude who's like keeping everything in canon, essentially. Um, the quote I'm paraphrasing, but it goes something like, "Everybody has their own idea of what Star Wars should be, but this is what Star Wars is." And
Huh.
like, I really like that because I fall into that same trap. Like, this is what Star Wars, like, this is what my Star Wars is. But like, at the end of the day, that's still not what Star Wars is.
Yeah, and it's definitely different for every person.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not if that's not made obvious enough by the reaction to the Last Jedi.
Oof. All right, no, yeah, I'm super cool with this. That's a good place to end. Thank you for joining us, everybody. I hope y'all got something out of this, even if it's just like mad disrespect for our respective processes, or maybe an idea for a character story that you want to do, some things you want to implement throughout with what we talked about, or just got decent ear feel out of this.
Yeah, and I mean, you've heard our opinions. Now tell us yours in whatever way you can, and please be polite.
Oh shit,
Maybe.
that's right. We did have a stupid cringy outro that I was pushing so hard because it was cringy and it made me happy.
Do you want to say it now in the cringiest way, in the cringiest voice you possibly can?
Oh, I don't remember it. Oh, I don't remember it. I'm gonna have to rewatch the first stream. I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Yeah.
I know it was. Remember, folks, these are our opinions, not yours. Thanks for playing.
That's just our opinion. That's just an opinion. Our opinion.
Thanks for philosophizing. Oh my god, now I want to do a fucking cringy Matt Pat impression while doing it in the voice of the Burger King foot lettuce guy.
Who?
That's just a theory. A game theory.
I have no idea who that guy. No idea who that guy is.
Oh
But
my god, it's the
sounds good.
fucking. We honestly used to watch some of his videos because he had paranormal shit sometimes. And he just had a really monotone voice, and he'd always say sentences constructed like this. It was
Huh.
like a top 10 channel, and he recently turned into a meme.
That sounds strangely familiar.
All right, we're dragging this on now.
Have a good day, night, morning, afternoon, whoever.